If you've seen the news lately, you've surely seen articles about crypto-terrestrials in Harvard University's study. That's from the Economic Times of India, Deccan Herald. They could be living among us. Crypto-terrestrials living among us. Are aliens living among us disguised as humans? Harvard study claims. Harvard scholars publish novel alien scientific paper, Crypto-Terrestrials. Scientists believe UFOs could be crypto-terrestrials secretly living among us. Intelligent alien dinosaurs could be hiding underground. Amazing. So this has definitely gone viral, and we'll read through the paper now. It is an unbelievable paper. I would call it a groundbreaking paper that really is what the scientific community needs. Harvard scientists say aliens may be living among us. That's correct. They say up to 10% chance the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis is correct, from 1% just a few years ago. Are there alien dinosaurs, and have aliens been on Earth all along? Harvard researchers seem to think so. Let's check it out.
Chris Lehto, welcome to LehtoFiles.
Okay, this is an interview with Dr. Michael P. Masters conducted by Vinny from Disclosure Team YouTube. Link in the description. Dr. Masters is one of the authors on this. He's actually at Montana University. And he was an author on the recent paper on the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis and the broader implications for our understanding of UFO phenomena. He's a professor of biological anthropology. This interview talks about his motivation for it. Dr. Masters explained his initial reluctance to engage with the journal industry due to its exploitative nature, but was convinced by Tim Lomas, the Harvard co-author of this significant paper. The paper discusses the possibility of advanced beings living secretly among us. It's a crypto-terrestrial and went viral shortly after its release, like I showed there, surely around the world. Discussion clarified the distinctions between different hypotheses such as extraterrestrial, ultraterrestrial, and cryptoterrestrial. We'll go through the paper here in a second. And while extraterrestrials are believed to come from other planets, ultraterrestrials might exist in different dimensions or states of reality. Cryptoterrestrials is a sub-branch of ultraterrestrials, and they are theorized to be advanced beings living covertly on Earth. Dr. Masters noted that while hard evidence is limited, observational data and historical accounts provide substantial indirect evidence. He cited the phenomenon of transmedium travel, moving between air, water, and possibly underground, as a notable pattern supporting the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. We'll go through variations of the crypto-terrestrials. Basically, you have human crypto-terrestrials, that's advanced human civilizations that chose to remain hidden like Atlantis. Remnant hominins, so a divergent branch of the human evolutionary tree that developed advanced technology. Extraterrestrial or extratemporal beings, those are advanced beings from other times or places who have decided to hide among us. And mythological beings or magical crypto-terrestrials, those are entities from folklore and religious texts that may represent real interactions with advanced beings. It's definitely gone around the world. This is from India, the Economic Times. Crypto-aliens. Harvard study claims extraterrestrials from outer space are living among humans. And that's not really correct, right? They're not extraterrestrials, they're ultra-terrestrials, so incorrect. Let's check out the paper now. Okay, so this is the PDF here, link in the description. I recommend you read through the whole thing, but we'll go through it in detail here. The crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, a case for scientific openness to a concealed earthly explanation for unidentified anomalous phenomenon. June 2024 in Philosophy and Cosmology. There's Tim Lomas from Harvard University, Michael P. Masters, you just saw there on Disclosure Team, much less publications, and then Brendan Case from Harvard University. They put a note right at the beginning, right? Right underneath the title. Note, this paper is a speculative thought piece that reflects the author's own interests and ideas and is not associated with the Human Flourishing Program at Harvard. And I believe that's Tim Lomas, where he works in the Human Flourishing Program. We would also like to emphasize that we believe this hypothesis to be in all likelihood false, but nevertheless believe it still merits scientific investigation. So they say later on, It went from 1% possible to 10% possible for the CTH, the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. So they still think it's 90% likely not true. Brendan Case is also on the Human Flourishing Program. And then you have Michael P. Masters from Montana Technological University, Biological Anthropology. Abstract. Recent years have seen increasing public attention and indeed concern regarding UAP. Hypotheses for such phenomena tend to fall into two classes: a conventional terrestrial explanation, e.g., human-made technology, or an extraterrestrial explanation, i.e., advanced technologies, advanced civilizations from elsewhere in the cosmos. However, there is a third minority class of hypotheses: an unconventional terrestrial explanation, so not extraterrestrial, outside the prevailing consensus view of the universe. This is ultraterrestrials hypothesis, which includes as a subset the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, namely the notion that UAP may reflect activities of intelligent beings concealed in stealth here on Earth, e.g. underground, and or its near environs, e.g. the moon, and or even walking among us, passing as humans. I've released a few videos from noted people such as Hellier, Canadian Defense Minister, and Heshed, who's the Israeli space director, that we actually have bases on Mars, or at least a base on Mars. Although this idea is likely to be regarded skeptically by most scientists, such is the nature of some UAP, that we argue this possibility should not be summarily dismissed, and instead deserves genuine consideration in a spirit of epistemic humility and openness. So this is kind of interesting. It was turned in 12 March 2024. It hasn't been peer-reviewed yet. It was accepted 22 April 2024, and it says here published October 2024, so in the future. This is just a breakthrough paper, and I hope it is peer-reviewed and published in October 2024. I'm not sure why that is the future, though. This is not Lomas's first paper on the topic. So this paper explores a hypothesis concerning UAP and follows another by the same first author, focusing on a related hypothesis recently published in the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology. Essentially, the discourse around UAP is dominated by two main classes of explanation: a conventional terrestrial origin, human technology, or an extraterrestrial origin, advanced civilizations arriving from elsewhere. However, such is the strange nature of many UAP that observers close to the topic have been compelled to consider a more unconventional set of theories, known collectively as the ultraterrestrial hypothesis. This denotes a broad category of conjecture centered around the possibility that UAP may involve forms of non-human intelligence that are already present in Earth's environment in some sense, which Puthoff describes as sequestered terrestrial cultures existing alongside us in distinct stealth. I went through Puthoff's whole paper, Ultraterrestrials, which he is referencing here, and he listens to Puthoff. We'll see. One is an interdimensional hypothesis, which was the focus of the previous paper, I'm guessing by Lomas, the interdimensional hypothesis. Interesting. This suggests UAP may involve beings from dimensions that coexist alongside the four dimensions of spacetime we usually perceive, and or the UAP occupants are extraterrestrial, that's outside of our time, traveling through the fourth dimension to visit different periods of Earth's history, which may involve our descendants returning to study their own hominin evolutionary past. So this is according to Masters' 2019 and 2022 papers. In writing that paper, though, the author became increasingly aware of the depth of evidence and theory that also tentatively supports another ultra-terrestrial explanation, the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, our focus here, which holds that UAP may reflect activities of NHIs concealed here on Earth, underground, and its environs. Indeed, philosopher Bernardo Castro in 2024 recently argued that a version of the CTH was, despite its seemingly outlandish, unlikely, and far-out nature, the most reasonable scenario for UAP and NHI. All interesting. Bernardo Castro, a huge fan. His argument is the CTH is the most reasonable scenario for UAP and NHI, so some sort of terrestrial, hidden, non-human intelligence. As such, a paper which explored the CTH in depth seemed a logical next step, and furthermore, a useful counterpart to the interdimensional paper. Fundamentally, UAP constitute an extraordinary empirical mystery, which science is surely obligated to investigate. Amazing. Yes, I've been saying that for so long. Yet has rarely done so, at least in an open, public, visible way, especially when it comes to these more unconventional ultra-terrestrial hypotheses. Yes, as soon as you mention anything about the woo, talk about the crazy parts of UAP, no one with a science degree will touch it, at least in the open, public, visible way, he says. As such, together, the previous and current paper will hopefully serve as valuable pieces of this emergent jigsaw puzzle that is humanity's attempt to better understand this existentially important, yet hitherto all too often overlooked phenomena. Say that sentence 5 times in a row. That's so true. This paper really is amazing. We'll go through here the UAP issue in a second. It's just a great summary of all the UAP findings related up to now. The paper begins by briefly noting the recent history and concern over this topic. Excellent section. However, this subject has been extensively covered elsewhere, including by Lomas in 2023, whose paper offers a relatively recent summary of the relevant terrain. So we will merely point to such sources rather than delving into detail. Then we explore the CTH over 5 sections, reflecting on limits to historical geographical knowledge, traces of lost civilizations, traces of underground civilizations, traditions around magical cryptoterrestrials, and UAP-related activity underground, underwater, and nearby, i.e. the moon. We conclude by noting that across these various considerations are actually 4 distinct CTHs, whose merits we briefly consider. We recognize these CTHs may rightly be regarded skeptically by most scientists, but argue they nevertheless should not be ruled out and deserve consideration in a spirit of epistemic humility and openness. So that's just amazing. Coming from Harvard, with the name Harvard on there, as well as Montana Technological Institute, so true. We need scientists to actually seriously consider this. Doesn't have to be a main topic of all scientists, but at least some scientists, a few actual scientists. The real paper is only 16 pages long, and I'll summarize sections of it. But this UAP issue section is really good. So let's check it out. For centuries, people worldwide have observed aerial phenomena that seemed anomalous in some way, some of which, crucially, we today, even with our more advanced technologies and scientific understanding, might still regard as extraordinary. Vallée, Lomas, and Case. During the 20th century, these attracted the label unidentified flying object, and more recently, unidentified aerial phenomena, with the latter now expanding even further by changing the A to simply denote anomalous, given that some UAP are not only airborne, but capable of traveling underwater, capacity which is central to the hypothesis considered here. I agree, and anomalous also takes into account more of the woo aspects. However, although there have been many sightings over the years, the Mutual UFO Network receiving over 200,000 reports since 1969, according to Mellon, these have generally not been taken seriously by authorities, at least in public. That's correct. In fact, quite the opposite. They have systemic programs to actually downplay it. However, there was a dramatic shift in 2017 when footage of 3 U.S. military encounters with UAP was published online, bringing the topic to wider attention not only in the U.S. but across the globe. Although UAP are a worldwide phenomenon, the dynamics of this topic are mostly driven by developments in the U.S., which of all nations has seen the most UAP-related activity, both in terms of sightings and the attention paid to them. I get a lot of people saying that to me as well. It's like, doesn't all this happen in the U.S.? And that's not really the case, right? You get worldwide sightings. I think in South America, they follow it much closer than the U.S. I don't know, maybe in terms of actual 200,000 reports in MUFON, you have more in the U.S., but I would say this is a worldwide phenomenon. You have over 1,000 cases in Sweden and Norway just from the ghost rockets. The military angle was especially significant as it involves observers who excel in occupations that require the highest skill and training in visual perception and processing, and whose testimony is often triangulated with other information sources, e.g. radar. That is an amazing point. That really changed the game, I think, for everybody, at least for me. When David Fravor made that amazing podcast and just went on the podcast route, that really changed my mind. And you have 4 aviators seeing it, the same thing, up close, right? In an air environment up close, and then combined with radar and the FLIR. Seems very compelling. As a result, the Department of Defense 2020 confirmed the footage was genuine and soon after established a UAP task force to investigate such incidents, now known as the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. I'd say those are 2 different things. It has subsequently published 3 main reports, and even though these had a very limited scope, The number of cases under consideration is over 800. Yes, over 800, and they don't seem to mention that. At a presentation in May 2023 by Dr. Kirkpatrick, then director of Arrow, having since left the post, he argued that the majority probably did have conventional explanations, and they probably do, and currently remain unidentified only through lack of good data that would allow conclusive identification. However, around 2 to 5% of the 800, and that's usually the number, 5%, roughly 15 to 40, were possibly really anomalous, according to Wenling in 2023. To that point, its most recent report noted that many reports from military witnesses do present safety of flight concerns, and there are some cases where reported UAP have potentially exhibited one or more concerning performance characteristics such as high-speed travel or unusual maneuverability. So they do admit, right? Volume 1 had all the, here's the easy explanations, we're leaving the hard ones for Volume 2, and then Kirkpatrick pieced out. Furthermore, it suggests that these cannot be attributed to the U.S. or other nations. None of these UAP reports have been positively attributed to foreign activities. Look at that. Arrow's also deconflicted these cases with potential U.S. programs. Moreover, many critics suspect that Arrow may be deliberately downplaying the topic and concealing, or at least obfuscating the extraordinary nature of many UAP-related events. Yes, many people have said that. Indeed, if so, this would follow a pattern set by its predecessors like Project Blue Book, which overall have served to minimize the significance of UAP and even to deny the reality at all. So this next part is an amazing quote I hadn't heard. This prerogative was admitted as such by Rear Admiral Hillenkoetter, first director of the CIA from 1947 to 1950, who is quoted by the New York Times in 1960 as saying, "Behind the scenes, high-ranking Air Force officers are soberly concerned about the UFOs. But through official secrecy and ridicule, many scientists are led to believe the unknown flying objects are nonsense." So look at that. I mean, he's the first director of the CIA saying this. Crucially, though, as Hillenkoetter admits, authorities have privately long held concerns about UAP and indeed appear to still do. In August 2023, for instance, General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said the military can explain a lot of it, the UAP, but there is some that's really kind of weird and unexplainable. Moreover, in June 2023, explosive whistleblowing claims were made publicly by David Grush, a veteran of the National Reconnaissance Office, National Geospatial Agency, who alleged that the U.S. government and private aerospace companies have for decades maintained a secret crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. At the time of writing, there's no way to know the validity of his claims. However, although they may seem extraordinary, myriad contextual factors mean they cannot be summarily dismissed, yes, as well as many people backing up the claim. For a start, it is significant that he has testified to these claims under oath to Congress, under penalty of perjury, including in a televised hearing of the House Subcommittee on National Security, the Border, and Foreign Affairs on July 26, 2023. I was there, and many of you watched it live with me, as well as other sessions behind closed doors. It's also noteworthy that the Intelligence Community Inspector General deemed his complaint credible and urgent. Likewise, on January 12, 2024, 16 of the 47 members of the House Oversight Committee, so 34% of them, met the ICIG for a secure briefing in relation to Grush, after which many made remarks indicating his allegations may be genuine. Representative Moskowitz, for example, posted on X, "Based on what we heard, many of Grush claims have merit." While Rep. Burchett said, "I think everybody left there thinking and knowing that Grush is legit." Perhaps even more significantly, other figures with the relevant expertise in security clearances have publicly vouched for his claims. For example, retired Army Colonel Carl Nell, who served alongside Grush in the UAP task force, said his assertion concerning the existence of a terrestrial arms race occurring sub rosa over the past 80 years, focused on reverse engineering technologies of unknown origin, is fundamentally correct. And that is amazing. So that's from Army Colonel Carl Nell. Imagine that, a terrestrial arms race occurring sub rosa, focused on reverse engineering technologies of unknown origin, is fundamentally correct. Indeed, at a public talk in May 2024, Nell was even more unequivocal, stating, "So non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing. And unelected people in the government are aware of that." Unelected people in the government are aware. What about the elected people? According to Haim Eshed, Israeli space director, at least Trump knew about it. Unknown if other presidents knew about it. And how much did he really know? Similarly, retired Admiral Tim Gallaudet, former head of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, said in a recent interview, "I'm totally convinced that we're experiencing a non-human higher intelligence. I'm completely convinced because I know the people who are in the government programs, the legacy programs, look at that oversaw both the crash retrieval and just the analysis of UAP data. That's amazing." Admiral Gallaudet says right there, "I know the people who are in the legacy programs and doing the analysis of UAP data. And I'm very confident in these people, former intelligence, former DoD, and we are working as a team behind the scenes to advance disclosure." That's amazing. Moreover, when asked, is there a chance of that we're seeing is adversarial, i.e. involving other nations, Gallaudet said, "No, I don't think so. I've been read into all the threats. I had a high clearance, top secret, special compartmentalized information, and I know that our adversaries don't have technologies like these." Furthermore, in addition to Gallaudet and Nell, numerous other significant figures have gone on public record either supporting Grush's claims or making similar claims. Additionally, a substantial number of other credible figures have followed Grush in making their own whistleblowing complaints behind closed doors, with Schellenberger reporting in September that over the past several months, at least 30 other whistleblowers working for the federal government or government contractors have given testimony to the Office of the ICIG, the Defense Department Inspector General, or to Congress, while a further 30 to 50 have offered similar testimony to Arrow. Moreover, these allegations seem to have been taken seriously by the intelligence, military, and political communities. In July 2023, Chuck Schumer, Majority Leader of the Senate, introduced bipartisan proposals for a UAP Disclosure Act. Yeah, covered that act and all the follow-on in multiple videos. As reported in the New York Times, this would create a commission with broad authority to declassify government documents about UFOs and extraterrestrial matters in an attempt to force the government to share all that it knows about unidentified phenomenon. This is an amazing summary. Explaining his motives, Schumer wrote, "The American public has a right to learn about technologies of unknown origin, non-human intelligence, and unexplainable phenomena. Indeed, many political figures seem not only convinced that UAP are generally extraordinary, but that Grush's allegations of crash retrieval program are credible, or at the very least deserve to be taken seriously and investigated genuinely." However, the proposals face resistance from select House representatives. Yes, very select. I covered that. Those people paid specifically by the defense industry. And Mike Turner, who shot it down, literally the congressman for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base District. Amazing. And only minimal aspects of the act were passed into law in December 2023 within the National Defense Authorization Act. Even so, those provisions were retained still contain some striking legislation and language, not least in referring explicitly to non-human intelligence in relation to UAP. Also covered as well, as Danny Sheehan said, Congress requires that the DoD actually give all of their information on UAP and record it in National Archives. Moreover, in May, Congressman Robert Garcia filed an updated version of the UAP Disclosure Act, a possible amendment to be considered on the floor of the House of Representatives during action on the fiscal year 2025 National Defense Authorization Act, which is expected around mid-June. So that was shot down. Let's look at why it was shot down, what was shot down about it. Its official description is as follows: enacts the remaining pieces of the Schumer-Rounds UAP Disclosure Act that passed the Senate in July 2023, but were eliminated from the final fiscal year 24 NDAA. Yes. Creates an unidentified anomalous phenomena records review board with exercise of eminent domain over UAP-related material controlled by private persons or entities, modeled on the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992. I think that's why it was shot down, is because of this eminent domain clause. The guys that shot it down are paid the most from defense contractors. Eminent domain would require that anyone, private persons or entities, so defense contractors, would be required give up these UAP-related material to the government. And I think that's why they shot it down. Evidently, political complications aside, authorities are perplexed and moreover concerned about UAP, which are a real empirical mystery that science is surely obligated to investigate, as indeed is already happening in some quarters. Yes, I've been saying that for years now on this channel, that science is surely obligated to investigate. They have to. That's where we make all our breakthroughs, is on the edges, things we don't understand. In that regard, scholars are beginning to formulate hypotheses about what UAP may be, with most attention focused on two classes of explanation: a conventional terrestrial origin, i.e. human technology, and more radically an extraterrestrial origin, advanced civilizations from elsewhere. Indeed, revolutionary as the latter would be, recent scholarship does suggest it is plausible, according to Lomas 2024. However, such are the strange nature of some UAP that people are also contemplating other possibilities. To that point, the linguistic nuance around this topic is intriguing, particularly the emphasis on non-human intelligence in the proposed Disclosure Act, where it appeared 22 times and was defined as any sentient, intelligent, non-human life form, regardless of nature or ultimate origin, that may be presumed responsible for UAP, or of which the federal government has become aware. This wording implies that two classes of explanation above are not the only possible ones. Yeah, he goes into an interesting discussion on this. In fact, key figures have made this very point, including Grush, interviewed by Ross Coulthart on News Nation in 2023, when asked if the government had been concealing the existence on this planet of alien life. He pointedly clarified, "I would couch it as non-human intelligence, because I don't necessarily want to denote origin. I don't think we have all the data to say, oh, they're coming from a certain location." He's also said he doesn't know if they were alive or could be confirmed as ever alive. Moreover, in another interview, Grush 2023 made some intriguing comments about the NHI involved with the alleged crash retrieval program being actually not that much more advanced than you and I, saying, if I was a betting man, some of these NHI, they're similarly as advanced as us, but they just made asymmetric evolution or whatever. They went a different path. Where we made nuclear weapons and stuff, they ended up making this civil propulsion kind of equivalent discovery where they're able to do this now. So that's an amazing point to be covered in this. Or people ask, why are they crashing? If they're so advanced and they come from all the way across the universe, why are they crashing? And this statement here from David Grush shows maybe they're not that much more advanced than us. They just made some breakthroughs in technology that maybe we didn't consider or haven't considered, or is being hidden from us. Thus, seemingly, the nature of UAP and their associated NHI is an open question, and the two options above are not the only explanations. As such, there is an emerging debate around other possibilities, which can be grouped together under the label ultraterrestrial hypothesis. This is a broad category of conjecture involving the idea that UAP may represent the activities of NHIs already present in the Earth's environment in some sense, hence ultraterrestrial, which Puthoff defines as sequestered terrestrial cultures, existing alongside us in distinct stealth. In that respect, Puthoff offers a taxonomy of such hypotheses, including extraterrestrial, cryptoterrestrial, demonic jinn, proto-ancient human, and time travels, etc., or some combination or mutation of any or all of these. Admittedly, these are extraordinary hypotheses that scientists may struggle to seriously consider. Many find an extraterrestrial hypothesis for UAP incredible enough, as evidenced by dismissive reactions to Grush's allegations by outspoken figures such as Neil deGrasse Tyson. However, it is the mission of science to investigate all aspects of physical existence, regardless of the extent to which they push at the circumscribing boundaries of our notions of conventional reality. This is definitely true. In fact, that's where we're going to get the most breakthroughs. Indeed, such is the deeply strange nature of UAP that people seem compelled, even against their own objections, to consider these alternatives. Consider Gary Nolan, an immunologist with a endowed chair at Stanford, who has for the past decade been involved in UAP research. In an interview with Nolan on Spotlight in 2022, Coulthart posed a similar question to the one he asked Grush and received a comparably ambiguous answer. Nolan replied, "Advanced capabilities. No, I don't know whether it's a technology per se, because I'm leaving open the idea that it's some form of consciousness that is non-material. And I know, say to my colleagues out there, this sounds absolutely crazy, but if you've seen the things that I've seen, we would only be able to come to a similar conclusion. Thus, some data relating to UAP are seemingly so extraordinary that people are forced to think outside the box and consider possible ultra-terrestrial explanations. Indeed, there are many potential hypotheses. Consider, for example, a presentation given by Colonel Carl Nell in 2023, cited above as corroborating Grush's allegations at a conference convened in November by the newly launched Soul Foundation. His presentation included a detailed taxonomy of possible UAP explanations involving 72 different hypotheses organized into 14 categories. Wow. These include 20 that he categorizes as ultra-terrestrial, which he defined as any sentient life form regardless of ultimate origin that has resided on Earth or in its environs, under land, undersea, aerospace, for significant duration in a semi-permanent, albeit covert, status. excluding humans from modern-day civilization and their known antecedents, with 4 of these being crypto-terrestrial specifically, as discussed in the conclusion. However, we would argue that his definition of ultra-terrestrial and the 20 hypotheses he selects for better fit the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis specifically. Within the broad ultra-terrestrial category, one theory, or collection of theories, is the interdimensional hypothesis, of which Nell offers 14 different variations, though he only positions some of these as ultra-terrestrial. This suggests UAP may involve beings from dimensions that coexist along the 4 dimensions of space-time humans usually perceive. Indeed, following the briefing on Grush that members of Congress received from the ICIG on January 12, Representative Luna said, "I think it's important to listen to the specific words that Grush uses. Grush never said extraterrestrial or alien. He said interdimensional." On a similar theme, Ron James, Director of Media Relations for UFO research group MUFON, claims he has been informed by intelligence insiders of a very large contingent of biblically minded people within the Pentagon who have sought to shut down investigations into UAP based on fear that these actually involve demons coming from hell. Amazing. So that's from MUFON Director Ron James. I've heard that in many of the comments is that it's been shut down. Here he says a very large contingent of biblically minded people who say it's demons coming from hell. So interdimension, hell is another dimension in this case. Another hypothesis which could, depending on how it is construed, be regarded as ultra-terrestrial is time travelers, which is now being given serious consideration, most notably by Masters, who calls this the extra-tempestrial explanation. One might also note that time-traveling NHIs or future humans could also be an aspect of the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, i.e. the 2 hypotheses overlap. Consider Pustov's claim that there could be an ancient occult group, isolated pre-Diluvian high-tech society, existing alongside us in distinct stealth, like living under the ocean or down in Antarctica, for instance. Unless this advanced technology had been developed by an early civilization on Earth whose traces have since disappeared, which is a remote possibility as we consider below, or likewise gifted to the group by extraterrestrial visitors, which is likewise an explanation that does have some viability, according to Lomas and Case. One of the only other means by which it could have been acquired would be it being brought back through time by those who benefited from its development over preceding eons. It's like Back to the Future, right? When Biff, basically old Biff, goes back in time and gives young Biff the almanac, so he had amazing future data. Would they go back in time to give your ancestors like a benefit, right? Indeed, regarding the time travel hypothesis generally, Coulthard said his sources in the intelligence community were specifically worrying about this explanation, linking it to concerns that future humans may have around our development of nuclear weapons, among other potentially calamitous future events. So linking it to concerns that future humans may have on our development of nuclear weapons. But if they're from the future, doesn't that imply that it's already happened? Because this would mean we don't know. You hear on all the NDE channels, etc., people say that the past, present, and future is happening all at the same time. So maybe we don't understand time? Thus, in the broad class of ultra-terrestrial hypotheses, various possibilities are receiving serious consideration. Most relevantly here, these include the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. So that was a long first section. This next section is actually not that long. The crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. In essence, as per all ultra-terrestrial hypotheses, the CTH suggests the NHI responsible for UAP may already be present in Earth's environment in some sense. However, rather than existing in other dimensions or other times, they are present in a relatively more conventional sense, i.e. hiding underground within our current standard space-time dimension, but are nevertheless hidden in some way. As with other ultra-terrestrial hypotheses, we should state outright that we consider this unlikely. Crucially, though, we do not regard it as impossible, and this is it. As soon as we say something is not possible, that's completely impossible, and we disregard it, we are removing it from the solution set. We're totally removing it from the solution set. And we've always been wrong in the past. It's just how wrong are we? So here they say, look, we don't regard it as impossible. Indeed, emerging observations seem to suggest it may well have some validity. It could also help to assign some probability weightings. For instance, before the past few years, we personally would have rated the possibility of the CTH having some basis in truth as low as 1%. Now, in light of recent data discussed shortly, we would put it at around 10%. Wow. This still, of course, means we view the CTH as 9 times more unlikely as likely. From the other direction, though, we also consider it 10 times more likely than we did before, with our priors having significantly shifted. And I think that's what we're seeing. Just the nature of this paper, how viral it's gone, shows that the stigma is decreasing. It is going down. Someone in science has written a full paper on all of these in-depth analysis of what could the UAP be. Thus, not only should the CTH not be summarily ruled out, we argue it should be explicitly given due consideration. Amazing. Epistemologically, the rationale is similar to Nolan's remark about leaving open the idea that it's some form of consciousness that is non-material. Even if the CTH also sounds absolutely crazy, people are seemingly becoming compelled to take it seriously. Indeed, going further, we concur with Pudov that a CTH should be actively investigated rather than passively and reactively waiting for relevant data to make itself apparent. Yes, this has been going on the last 80 years and shows where we have gotten effectively nowhere. He suggests it would behoove us to set aside our tentativeness about any given hypothesis, place it on the table as almost certainly true, and go for it. Doing so by incorporating elements of a more forensic gumshoe style as in criminalistics and intelligence work. That was an amazing comment. That was in Pudov's Ultraterrestrials paper that I covered. I think it's so true. The starting point for taking the CTH seriously is perplexity over two interrelated empirical mysteries. First, it is increasingly apparent that UAP are not only aerial, but can also move underwater in ways that, for their airborne counterparts, defy explanation. The importance and indeed urgency of paying attention to such phenomena has been outlined in a white paper by retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, cited above as corroborating Grush's claims, who argues that an extensive body of accounts and data show unidentified submersible objects, USO, acting in ways that surpass human technology and even challenge scientific understanding of what is possible underwater. For example, reporting on interviews with Navy submariners who had direct or indirect encounters with underwater UAPs, McGregor, in 2023, summarizes the situation by saying, "These objects have been observed to behave in ways that defy our current understanding of physics, much like their aerial counterparts. They are said to move at incredible speeds, are capable of sudden and rapid acceleration, deceleration, direction changes, all without any visible means of propulsion or control." In one case from 1987 divulged by Kevin Knuth, I covered this on the channel. For example, a New Zealand frigate was reportedly followed by a USO 150 feet wide and 800 feet long, calculated to have a top speed of 2,980 miles per hour, having closed a distance of 20 kilometers in 30 seconds. That's underwater. Moreover, some UAPs seem capable of moving through air and water with comparable ease, and perhaps even other mediums, such as rock, with these transmedium capabilities being one reason the UAP acronym was expanded from aerial to the broader anomalous. Indeed, in an article in the Daily Mail titled "Forget UFOs, Alien Hunters Say We Should Be Focusing on Unidentified Submerged Objects," former Russian Navy officer turned UAP researcher Vladimir Azaza is quoted as saying 50% of UFO encounters are connected with oceans, 15 more with lakes, so UFOs tend to stick to the water. One point on this I thought reading through is, over the water, you have clear visibility, right? As a fighter pilot, we definitely want to be over the land. It's just much, much more difficult to see you. It's just so much more difficult. I don't know how else to explain it. Over water, there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide optically, and there's nowhere to hide on radar. So could it be that we're just seeing it so much easier? But if you look at the ghost rockets, they're all associated with lakes. All 2,000 accounts associated with lakes in Sweden. To that point, USOs seem to be of increasing concern to relative authorities. For example, in May, Representative Luda, co-chair of the Congressional UAP Caucus, was asked by reporter Matt Laszlo whether she had any updates on planned UAP hearing in the House of Representatives. And she replied, "We're working on doing something with the USO." Thus, there's increasing recognition of an underwater dimension to the phenomenon, as Nolan stated in a 2022 interview when asked, "Whatever this is coming from outside our atmosphere or from beneath our oceans," he replied, "Both." Moreover, some sightings do involve objects that appear to be coming from the water, as opposed to merely moving through it. Indeed, arguably the most famous UAP event for recent years, a series of encounters in November 2004 centered on the USS Nimitz nuclear aircraft carriers seem to involve one such object. A less well-known but perhaps even more striking case was divulged by Lou Elizondo in 2021, a former intelligence officer closely linked to UAP investigations, involving a military encounter in the Caribbean in which a circular object about the size of a small island rose up from the deep on 2 separate occasions. I think he said it actually swallowed one of their test torpedoes, the size of a small island. The second related empirical mystery is that some UAP sightings involve craft or other phenomena appearing to enter potential underground access points, like volcanoes. The Popocatépetl volcano, I'm sure I said that correctly, in central Mexico, for example, is considered a hotspot for such observations, with numerous such events captured on camera in 2023, which some UAP observers suggested was a smoking gun regarding ancient high activity on Earth. Various hypotheses have been touted about these observations. In the latter article, one observer is quoted as suggesting the volcano functions as an interdimensional portal. However, other people speculate that some UAP might not only be drawn to such locales, but might come from underground. Similarly, there are rumors of underwater bases in areas notable for reports of UAP entering and exiting the water, as discussed below. Together, these 2 empirical mysteries have led some to contemplate a CTH. Discussing Grush's allegations, Representative Mike Gallagher noted that one potential explanation for UAP is an ancient civilization that's just been hiding here for all this time and is suddenly showing itself right now, with seemingly numerous well-informed individuals making similar comments. Given such stories together with the general strangeness of the UAP topic, there's increasing openness to the CTH, as seen above with comments by Rep. Gallagher. To reiterate, this hypothesis carries a very low probability weighting, and even people open to it remain skeptical. However, such skepticism is entirely appropriate as it does not negate the point of this paper, namely taking seriously the CTH as a possible explanation for UAP. We are not arguing that UAP do have crypto-terrestrial explanation, but simply that they could, and the judicious approach is to consider all valid theories until the evidence decisively demonstrates they should be rejected. We therefore suggest scientists should keep an open mind and investigate the CTH as a genuinely viable theory. To that end, we offer various speculative strands of thought that could provide a tentative foundation and evidence for such a theory. For context, we begin by considering the limits to current historical and geological knowledge. Okay, amazing stuff. I think this is just a breakthrough paper. I'll go through the second half of it in a follow-on video, so look out for that coming hopefully tomorrow. In that video, they explain what are the 4 most possible CTH situations. And that was just a fantastic summary, wasn't it? I mean, they seem very knowledgeable, amazing paper. I don't think I could have written a better paper over a very long time frame. So quite good. Excited to see this. And let's hope it get peer reviewed. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button. It really helps and it's free. Consider subscribing to get future notifications of when I release videos. And you might like this video recommended by YouTube just for you. If you want to support the channel, join these great people over here, get exclusive bonus content, then click this button here, patreon.com/chrislehto, or become a YouTube member. If you want to continue the discussion, go to UAPSociety Discord. Links are all in the description. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.